You're taking a look inside Kansas politics. Welcome in. I'm Rebecca Chung. Today we're taking a look at the races to watch in 2024. I have two political experts joining me today to break things down. We have State House correspondent for the Associated Press, John Hanna, and Brad Cooper, editor and publisher for the Sunflower State Journal. All right, Brad, John, topping off our list for 2024 is the presidential race. Kansas will be having a presidential preference primary on March 19th. Democrats and Republicans in Kansas will choose their nominee for both parties. President Biden and former President Donald Trump filed for this race, and it looks like they could be frontrunners for both parties. So, Brad, what are some things people should keep in mind about this race?
Well, I think one of the things that's been sort of percolating across the country is whether Trump can even be on the ballot. There's been this whole idea that the fact or that he was sort of behind January 6th, and there's a question about whether that disqualifies him from being on the ballot. There was a lawsuit filed individually by a man from Texas who's running for president, who has challenged whether Trump can be on the ballot. That case is still pending in federal court. It's moving very slowly. So that's something I think is sort of worth watching.
Well, in other states, I think Minnesota and Colorado, and there's another one somewhere, I think so far the judiciary has not wanted to say that the former president can't be on the ballot. And this deals with the 14th Amendment. I think there's a clause in there that talks about no one who's waged an insurrection against the United States is eligible. And that, of course, was designed to keep former Confederate officials out of the federal government right after the Civil War. But the other question that's out there is how competitive are either of these races still going to be on March 19th? How many Republicans will still be in it, how close to having it locked up in terms of delegates and such will Donald Trump have. And there is really no sense that unless Joe Biden decides he doesn't want to run again, there's really no sense that he won't be the nominee. So it's more of a chance for people to come out and express their preference. Kansas does, if the race remains competitive, Kansas does have kind of a history of having interesting results. In 2008, I think Mike Huckabee came out ahead of John McCain, if I'm remembering, and that was a different result. So Kansas can be a little contrary, and that's interesting. And you have all these interesting dynamics right now within the Republican Party. But there's no sense that Donald Trump isn't popular in at least 3 of the 4 congressional districts in Kansas.
Sure, and I don't think we even really have a good idea about what the field would look like in Kansas. And I think come March 19th, there will be a lot of primaries that will have been held by the time Kansas holds its primary. So we don't really have a good feel for that. I mean, Chris Christie, I believe, has not been able to get on the ballot, I believe, in New Hampshire. And that would probably seriously hurt his campaign, regardless of what happens in Iowa. Mm-hmm. And so we have a long way to go to even know what or who's going to be on the ballot in Kansas by the time March rolls around.
Okay.
Right. And I was also just curious before we move on here, but if it's not Trump who gets the GOP nomination, who do you think is a likely pick on the Republican side?
Well, it's really sort of curious because a lot of folks like former Governor Jeff Collier, Tracy Mann, Roger Marshall have been very vocal in their support of former President Trump. Ironically, Americans for Prosperity and its political action committee has been very much for Nikki Haley and has come out in support. So you kind of have some kind of curious division there within the Republican Party. And I don't know which of those groups is going to ultimately hold sway in Kansas come the 19th, although I'd tend to agree sort of with John in terms of Trump's popularity.
Well, and you have to try to imagine the scenario where Trump would be knocked out of the race, and if 4 federal indictments don't do that, what does that? Does a conviction, and just in terms of sheer timing, does a conviction do that or not? It may not, given the political world that we live in.
John, Brad, thank you. When we come back, Kansas Democrats are pushing to overturn the GOP majority. Will it happen? We're looking at the top Kansas House and Senate races to watch in 2024 after the break. We'll be right back. You're watching Inside Kansas Politics.
The Holton Weathercam is sponsored by Ellis Boys, Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, and Ram.
Winter's first snowfall. It's a magical time. The kids are dressed and ready to play. In the living room. Those leaky vinyl windows were a great deal, though. At Renewal by Andersen, every replacement window we install is custom sized and precision manufactured to fit your home. That means a perfect fit every time. Kick those cheap, leaky windows to the curb. Visit our website to claim this month's great offer and schedule your free consultation.
Devon James wins.
We're Devon James. As lawyers who focus on serious injuries, we know what really matters.
We've helped people get life-saving care after sudden accidents.
We've been there to restore hope during long recoveries.
And fought to provide a better future to those who need it most.
That's why at Devon James, we fight for everything you deserve.
And we will win your case, or you pay us nothing.
Devon James wins. Call 888-8888.
You want sports, we've got sports.
KU and K-State sports on K-Nation.
Highlights, scores, interviews, you name it, we have it.
So whether you root for the Jayhawks or the Wildcats,
you'll love the coverage we put together for you every single week. We hope you'll join us every Sunday night right after 27 News at 10.
as we bring you another exciting week of K-Nation.
Sponsored by 988 Suicide and Crisis Lifeline.
This week's Pets in Need Spotlight is Landon. Landon is a 7-year-old cat who is diabetic. He requires an injection daily, but is doing well on his regimen and is a friendly, happy boy. You can meet Landon at Helping Hands Humane Society.
Don't miss Dinosaur World Live, February 15th at 6 at the Topeka Performing Arts Center. Tickets available at the TPAC box office or Ticketmaster.com.
Welcome back to Inside Kansas Politics. I'm Rebecca Chung. Now we're getting into the race for a new majority in Kansas. Democrats are hoping to pick up more seats in the House and Senate. John, can it be done?
Yes, of course it can be done, especially with Johnson County trending bluer over the last decade. There are pickup opportunities there, I think the Democrats believe. Also, the Democratic Leadership Committee, a national group that's dedicated, legislative campaign committee, I can't remember the name of it, but it's going to be playing in Kansas. The goal is Republicans right now have super majorities, 2/3 or more, and the goal is to get those below super majorities so that vetoes of the Governor Kelly can be sustained. They basically need a net gain of 1 in the House, unless you count the rogue Democrat Marvin Robinson, then they need 2. And then in the Senate, they need a net gain of 3 to get there. So it is doable. The issue is how many seats can they pick up in Johnson County, and while keeping things relatively steady in other parts of the state. There's some, so I think a lot of us are going to be watching to see what happens there, and then there'll be some interesting races around the state.
And Brad, another question for you. What are some key races to watch in the House and Senate in 2024?
Well, certainly a lot of folks are going to be watching incumbent Republican Senator Mike Thompson of Shawnee. He's the popular, TV weatherman from Kansas City who everybody knows and have known him for years by him beaming into their living rooms. And he has probably a very good door presence. But I think Democrats see an opportunity there. They think he might be out of step with the district, and I think they spent all of that when he ran in 2020 against when he ran in 2020, both candidates combined spent almost $400,000 in that race, and I suspect you're going to see a lot of money poured into that race this time. A real estate salesman has already filed, and filed a couple months ago. He's obviously probably been raising money for the last 3 or 4 months, and we'll get a sense of that in a couple weeks when his report comes in. How much money do those two have? That's, I think, one of the biggest races in the state. And you also have some top House leaders that are switching over to the Senate side, like Vic Miller.
Yeah, Vic Miller is running for, they redistricted in 2022, and so there's a new lead. What we should say is the sense of the map was that it would basically preserve the Republican majority roughly about this size, give or take some seats. But yes, in drawing the districts and shifting the population, there's an empty district that stretches from West Lawrence into a lot of East Topeka. So Vic Miller is going to run for that seat, but it's not going to be uncontested. You actually were just
tonight. Shamika King Sims announced that she was running for that seat this evening. She's a civic leader in Topeka. And also you have a former congressional candidate, Patrick Schmidt, who ran against Jake LaTurner last year for Congress. He lost, but he's already been raising a lot of money. He had Emmanuel Cleaver, the congressman from Kansas City, went to Lawrence for a fundraiser for him about a week ago. He has support from the former Democratic Party chair, Joan Wagner, and yeah, I've heard that the former Congressman Jim Slattery has also written him a check. I'm not really confirmed that, but that there is talk that he's been already working to build a lot of support in that race.
Well, and in 2022, his kind of his campaign major domo was John Carlin, the former governor. So, and the thing is, on election night, it looked really good for Patrick Schmidt up until about halfway through the night when the Republican counties started to come in, and that was because he did pretty well in Shawnee County. Now, of course, this is going to be, on the Democratic side, it's going to be a primary. You're also going to have some interesting primaries out in western Kansas. State Senator Alicia Straub is facing a state representative, Tori Blue, and Straub has been targeted by Americans for Prosperity because of some of her votes on tax issues. So that will be an interesting one. And then in the Wichita area, Carolyn McGinn of Sedgwick, a little town outside of Wichita, she is kind of one of the last moderate to moderately conservative Republicans. She would consider herself a conservative, but she's not as conservative as a lot of the other Republicans. And she's facing Steve Owens, a much more conservative state representative. So you're going to see a lot of those races, and the one that I'm particularly interested in is in the Kansas City, Kansas area. That's where the state representative Marvin Robinson I mentioned before, I called him rogue. That's because he voted to override a lot of the governor's vetoes and was very crucial on, for example, the ban on transgender girls and women's playing on girls and women's teams in sports. That was one of the key votes, and I believe there was a key vote on an abortion bill that he put it over the top. So the establishment Democrats are probably going to be looking to get rid of him.
I mean, one of your more curious races to kind of watch would be up in the Atchison area, where there is a Republican primary with current state rep John Epley, who's going up against another Republican, Craig Bowser, who's run before unsuccessfully. But you have the incumbent in that district, which is current state senator Dennis Pyle, the former Republican, the former Republican who ran for governor as an independent.
Yes, and really torqued off a lot of Republicans.
Yeah, he made a lot of.
It's why he's got the tiny basement office right now.
But that was largely because he's an independent, so he doesn't caucus anymore with the Republicans. But the question with with Senator Pyle, and I think a lot of people wonder is, will Senator Pyle go back to being a Republican, which would give you a three-way primary up in the Atchison area instead of the two-way, or will he wait as an independent and then try to, I mean, I think everybody would acknowledge as an independent, it's a lot harder to run against an established Republican. But so the question I think we'll have to answer is between now and early June, will Dennis Pyle go back to being a Republican again?
Yeah, that'll be very interesting to watch.
Looks like the man on fire is in another heated race.
Yes, we're referencing an internet commercial for Dennis Pyle. What was it, like 8 minutes long, and somebody wrote a song and sang, and it was like something.
Dennis Pyle, the man on fire.
Yes, yes, it was really, it was one of the more memorable
moments of the governor's race.
All right, thank you guys so much. Still ahead, we're taking a look at the top congressional races. Sharice Davids, the state's only Democratic rep in the U.S. House, is up for re-election again. Will she keep her seat? We'll be right back. You're watching Inside Kansas Politics.
Growing the market for Kansas-made E15 is a win-win for Kansans. What's E15? It's fuel with 15% ethanol compared to the usual 10% in regular unleaded. E15 is more affordable, has better performance, and runs cleaner than regular unleaded, meaning Kansas drivers can go further for less. From helping Kansas farm families by stabilizing grain prices, helping Kansas become more energy independent, and adding more than 4,000 jobs in Kansas, more of our money stays right here at home because of ethanol. Visit fueledbykansas.com to find a station near you.
Protect your home from sudden power outages with a Generac home standby generator installed by Shockwave Electric certified experts. Call Shockwave Electric for all your commercial and residential electrical services.
Our kids are really struggling with mental health challenges these days. Some are even considering suicide. If your child or teen is in a mental health crisis, threatening suicide, or to harm others, Family Service and Guidance Center's crisis services are here for your child 24/7, 365. Call 785-232-5005 anytime, day or night. Suicide. Talk about it. Save a life.
Hi, I'm Eric Wilson with Capital City Flooring. We have the flooring for your style and budget. With our in-house installers, rest assured you will have our people in your home providing the best workmanship and quality. Capital City Flooring, where fine quality and service matter most.
Change the way you live by changing the way you sleep. It's the New Year's celebration of it now at the Mattress Hub. Relax in luxury with free adjustable bases, free delivery, and our famous one-year comfort guarantee. Hurry in and save up to 50% off, only at the Mattress Hub.
For the best coverage of high school basketball in Northeast Kansas, join Glenn Kinley and Lainey Gerber for Full Court Press. Friday nights at 10 on 27 News.
Welcome back to Inside Kansas Politics. I'm Rebecca Chung. Up next, we're taking a look at congressional races in Kansas. Brad, John, several U.S. House seats will be up for grabs. We have one that includes U.S. Rep. Tracy Mann's seat in the 1st District. In the 2nd District, Representative Jake LaTurner will be up for re-election. And then rounding out the list of Republicans in the U.S. House up for re-election is Representative Ron Estes in the 4th District. And in the 3rd District, a race that we've been keeping an eye on is the state's only Democrat in the U.S. House, Representative Sharice Davids. So, Brad, you've also been keeping a close eye on this race in the 3rd District. What are some key things to note about this race?
Well, she has opposition. I mean, she's had opposition. This will be her 4th round, and it's not unlike when Dennis Moore, the Democrat, was representing the 3rd District. He had opposition every year, and Republicans lined somebody up to run against him. So he never, I don't believe Dennis ever, or Congressman Moore ever went a cycle without a campaign. In this case, Congressman Davids has opposition from a Johnson County oncologist, Prasanth Reddy, who has been raising a lot of money. He's not the only one. There's Jonathan Westbrook, who is a White House fellow who is running, and Karen Sirkovich, who owns a heating air conditioning company in the Kansas City area. So there are 3 people lined up to run against Congressman Davids. Prasanth Prashanth Reddy has been the one who's been trying to coalesce more national support. He was part of, or he's part of the joint fundraising committee that was created by new House Speaker Mike Johnson, which will open doors for Prashanth Reddy to get more fundraising from national Republicans. He also just picked up the endorsement of
Elise Stefanik
of
New York,
who's chair of the House Republican Conference. And a lot of people, a lot of Democrats are confident that Congresswoman Davids will win again. But those things or those moves have more to do about winning a primary at this point than I think winning a general election. And so all of this is starting to coalesce behind Dr. Reddy. And he, I think, had raised, in the ballpark of $300,000, which was more than anybody else had raised in the 3rd District. So he is in position to not only have a lot of money, but to raise even more money as he tries to win the Republican nomination in the 3rd District.
And the issue for Republicans in the 3rd District is going to be if Donald Trump is at the top of the ticket. That is probably not going to play very well in Johnson County because of the way it's been trending blue. Most of the votes in the 3rd District are in Johnson County, despite how it was redrawn to add some rural territory. And so, in some ways, you're positioning a strong candidate to raise plenty of money, get the message out there, and then you're hoping the national conditions are such that lightning strikes and you can do that. And that's how Sharice Davids got into office. She emerged from a very crowded primary and was a good enough, strong enough candidate that the dissatisfaction with Donald Trump in the suburbs, that was the middle of his term, boosted her past the incumbent Kevin Yoder. And a lot of these races, it's all nationalized, and it's all occurring in this context of, are Democrats going to take back the House? And so even if Sharice Davids still wins, but if they can tie her up and force Democrats to spend more money than they want to in Kansas, then the Democrats are not spending money elsewhere, and that could help Republicans. And then we just had a redistricting ruling in New York that may rebound to Democrats' advantage. So there are all these national forces at play.
Well, John, Brad, thank you. We'll be right back after the break. You're watching Inside Kansas Politics.
Ashley's President's Day preview sale is here. Get early access to Hot Buys, your choice just $6.99. Or shop in store for designer deals as low as $17 per month or $9.99.99. With special financing options for every budget at Ashley Manhattan.
The story of Grace Med has always been told through its people, both those who serve and those who it is our honor to serve. We meet at the intersection of compassion and vulnerability, bringing health where there was illness and hope where there was despair. Our patients come to us bearing the weight of living in the margins, and we share the love of Jesus Christ with them by providing compassionate quality health care for all their physical, emotional, and spiritual needs. Because health restored is always hope renewed. Find hope today by scheduling an appointment with Grace Med.
We have all been touched by the support of a caring nurse, a professional who is there to help in trying times. 27 KSNT and Baker University are passionate about the services nurses provide. We want to recognize the heroic work that they do every day for their patients and their families. And we need your help. Visit KSNT.com to nominate a deserving Kansas nurse. Each month, a winner will be highlighted on TV and online. Nominate that special nurse who has made a difference in your life. Sponsored by Baker University.
Today on CW Women's Hoops, Clemson clashes with Elizabeth Kitley and Georgia Amore as they power number 14 Virginia Tech on their mission to return to the Final Four. CW Women's Hoops, Clemson versus number 14 Virginia Tech. Today at 12 Eastern, 9 Pacific.
Ashley's President's Day preview mattress sale is here. Get early access to mattress Hot Buys, your choice just $6.99. Plus, save up to $1,000 on select mattresses. Visit your local Ashley Manhattan to shop the President's Day preview mattress sale today.
Welcome back to Inside Kansas Politics. I'm Rebecca Chung. We're wrapping up our talk on the top races to watch in 2024. Brad, this is for you. Are there any other races we haven't mentioned that people should keep an eye on?
Well, I think one race that we missed was the Senate race where Beverly Gossage, the chair of the Senate Health Committee, has primary opposition from Brian Zessiger, who is the owner of a winery in, I think it's Douglas County. He's got his winery kind of covers 2 counties, but anyway, he's running against her, and she won by 4 percentage points in 2020. So that will be a race. It'll be interesting to see how she's going to fare against another Republican challenger who has a military background, has been involved in trying to pass some legislation in Topeka. So that would be certainly one race. Another race I would encourage that people should watch.
And we need to remember that there will be lots and lots of local elections, especially at the county level, county commissions, sheriffs. Thanks to a constitutional amendment, all sheriffs will remain elected, except I think in Riley County, where years ago they went to a different system. But especially it should be interesting in Johnson County, the incumbent is a Republican, Calvin Hayden, who has kind of embraced the election conspiracy and launched some investigations into election complaints. They haven't resulted in any charges yet. And so that will be interesting to watch that. And then I always watch the local Register of Deeds, because at one point years ago I was researching the history of my 100-plus-year-old house, and I got a lot of help from that office. They did a very good job, and so I have a soft spot in my heart for the Register of Deeds, and because I never read anything bad about them, they only get in the paper if they do something bad, so I haven't read anything about them, so it's safe. It's probably safe to vote for the incumbent.
Yeah, you got to keep an eye on those lesser-known races, because
because there are lots of offices that really can, on the local level, affect your daily lives. I mean, those county commissioners, they deal with, especially in rural counties, they deal with roads and all kinds of stuff.
Right.
So.
Exactly. Well, thank you both again for coming in. And that was your look inside Kansas politics. If you want to keep up to date on all things Kansas politics, then follow us on social media. Follow us on Twitter at @InKansasPolitics and on Facebook. Just search Inside Kansas Politics. We'll also post the full video on YouTube. Just search KSNT News and check ksnt.com/inside-kansas-politics for past episodes. If you have stories you want Kansas State legislators to hear or topics you think we should cover, let us know. You can email us at ikp@ksnt.com. We'll see you right here, same time, same place. Have a good day.